everyone, it's Dr. Uju Rapu here. Welcome to our Self-Love 360 podcast. Self-Love 360 is a movement we started to focus on emotional well-being of women. We thought to start this podcast to be able to reach more women, really. So we're trying to teach you ways to build emotional resilience and aid your healing journey, and ultimately have you feeling as good as you look on the outside. Today, I have Mrs Itsueli on the podcast with me, who's my aunt. She's a seasoned counselor with over 40 years experience and also the founder and director of Relate Africa, a non-profit mental health and human relationship development organization established in 2017. Hello, Auntie. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much, Uju. Nice to be here.
So the topic of our podcast today is the art of emotional resilience. We've chosen this topic because it's something we note in terms of we've all been through, everyone goes through challenges, traumas, and we're noting that resilience isn't saying nothing is going to happen to you, but it's the tools you use to move through and keep on going with your life. So we want to learn today from you practical steps on how to build emotional resilience. So I'll just start with an opening question. How would you define emotional resilience?
Well, the thing is, we are made up of ourselves, the inside of us, our body, and our mind, the cognitive part of us. And our emotions actually come from that part of us, the mind, the brain. And you find that some people, events happen to them, they can't forget it. So people are different. And for you to be able to move on in anything, you've got to be able to forget, explain it to yourself, tell yourself how to move on and actually move on. But this is very hard for many people, and particularly for women, I see, particularly all over the world. It's not just necessarily in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. People tend to think it's African women, but it's women everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's human beings everywhere, including men.
You said people are different. So I wonder, is this something that some people are born with, or they learn subconsciously how to be emotionally resilient? Or do some people just have it as a natural, inclination to be a bit more emotionally stronger?
You are right. We never know when someone is born with a gift, like an artist. It's not everyone who can draw, but all of us have fingers. So there are some people who are naturally gifted. But by and large, giftedness cannot account for up to 80%. So we just have to know that the wider majority of human beings will not be born with that. Yeah. And therefore, it is learned behavior. Okay. It depends how you are raised, what you met in your life, in the early parts of your life, and how prepared you were when these traumas occur.
Yeah. So sort of, we know everyone goes through life challenges, but what you're saying is it can depend on the stage at which it happens.
Yes.
Maybe being in nurture, family backgrounds. I was saying this morning, I stumbled upon a story of a Dutch lady called Annette, and she had booked a flight with her fiance, and they were going on a romantic holiday, and the plane crashed in the middle of a jungle. The Vietnamese jungle, and she was the only survivor, and she stayed alive for 8 days with everyone else dead around her before she was rescued. And so I was quite intrigued by her story and found out now she's actually written a book and talking a lot about resilience and how she felt that kept her alive. But she mentioned some things that kept her going while she was there. So she said, for example, she tried not to think about what was happening. So she tried not to think my fiance is dead, but she accepted I'm not on the beach. We're not at our holiday. This is where we're at now. So she talks about acceptance. She made mention of staying calm, focusing on her breathing, meditating. And she even said something about, I started noticing the beauty of the leaves around me. And so I thought that was really interesting because how did she know to do these things? And in terms of the few factors I've mentioned, are any of these tools that you bring up when you're teaching people about emotional resilience? So in summary, what are the tools you tell people this is what you need to have to be able to get through a trauma? And can you relate possibly to how that can, if it kept her alive with no food, how that can help someone in everyday life to
Yes.
get through?
As I listen to you, I try to put myself in her shoes and to use the experience I have to wonder what helped her. The first thing I think is that she would have tried to harness her fear.
Yeah.
That's just the first thing. I realized that in life there are many emotions, but there are basically four of them. If you've got to sort of chart them: happiness, sadness, anger, fear. Now, three of the four are negative emotions. And so we will go through those emotions and they are negative. So I can imagine that she was afraid, she was sad, and then she was angry. The fear would have been the worst part of it. So what did she do? How did she get herself trained? I think for those who are not born with it, it's to have a spirit of gratitude and thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Looking at everyone and saying, well, I'm the only one left. So it must be that I'm not meant to die. Have a positive attitude to it.
Yeah.
Really the power of positive thinking. And a lot of times we are taught even from childhood to think negatively. Think about a little thing like a little child, a little girl being told you're ugly. She lives with that. It doesn't matter what happens. And it's the emotions it generates is anxiety, which is like fear. And that kind of person in that situation will say, wow, how did I get here? I'm so ugly and I'm saved. It must be a terrible thing. She may not have a positive attitude to her situation. But I think this Annette is brilliant. I haven't read her book, but I think that I like what she's thinking about. Positive thinking takes you to thinking about the nice things you are with, that's happening to you right now. And I think what happens to those who get emotionally weighed down is the fact that they are contemplating only the bad in their lives.
I noticed you said something about she thought about what she was thinking and how sometimes the thoughts will bring up certain emotions. So you mentioned if she was thinking negative thoughts, she'd probably have been anxious.
Yes.
And so really what I'm picking up is that there's more, we're more prone to negative emotions, but we're in control of changing how we're thinking and then knowing that there's strong links between our thoughts and our emotions.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful summary of the situation.
And then something else she actually said, which you actually already said, she said there was a point where she was almost feeling sorry for herself, but then she said, I need to remove the thoughts from myself and focus on other things around me. Yes. And that's when she started noticing the jungle is peaceful. Really interestingly, before she even got saved, she said as they were carrying her out, she started panicking because she had found the jungle became a home, which I thought was so interesting for you to feel that the place of your trauma is now your area of safety. And that conversion only happened because of how she trained her mind. Yes. So question, in medicine, there's automatic negative thoughts. Yes. So we're usually automatically thinking negative things. And so how do you train someone to be able to remember? Because sometimes once you're in the negative thoughts, it's just easier to sit in it as opposed to now start thinking positive. So someone who's been a long-term negative thinker, what would you say to them to help them train themselves to go into positive thinking, to help to use that as a tool to overcome trauma?
Helping people, I had always wondered how to help them deal with their negative feelings. And as I think about this lady, I'm thinking that these negative emotions are there. There's nothing we can do about them. And how do we then learn to be the person that we should be? Unfortunately, the fear is a lot. What she did, I think, was to keep looking at the best in the situation. A lot of people don't. Now, let me tell you how we can notice about resilience and lack of resilience. Nature is beautiful. Nature warns us. Nature lets us know how we're feeling. So, for instance, a person suddenly comes into a situation that creates fear. There is a physical reaction. Either the person's tummy turns, or they suddenly have a headache, or sometimes their eyes are blurred, or they feel like going to the toilet. Their hands are clammy. Those are signs that you are faced with a negative emotion and that your emotions are not taking this well. So next thing is harness it. Just say, if it's going to the loo, go. While you're there, tell yourself, I can deal with this. I can deal with this. Try to calm yourself down. Sometimes some people can't do it. But what it is to keep thinking at that particular moment, what am I most afraid of about this? Be as rational as you can. There are people who have been taught in life that, just move on, move on. And they didn't realize that they picked it up from childhood, So I find that it depends on how you are raised. But what I would say to people as a general thing, take it that you haven't been raised to be emotionally resilient and begin to train yourself in emotional resilience. I do not think that people go through life just with terrible experiences like Annette's. We have been taken through gradual processes of fear, of anxiety, of sadness, of anger. We know.
Yeah.
And that is when we start. So it's to start today. If you can notice, I'm angry, and that's why I have a headache. I'm angry, and that's why my hands are clammy. Begin to be more self-aware. It's about self-love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings me to, I was going to ask, what's the place of meditation and deep breathing? Because that's something she mentioned as well. Because she actually found out she had a collapsed lung. But she said she just kept saying, take deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And so even in terms of the physical symptoms of clammy hands and your body being in a nervous state, we know deep breathing helps to calm that down. But in terms of being in the middle of a crisis, is there a place for telling someone deep breathing is a tool to help you?
I do not think you can tell someone that because they think you're just giving instructions. I think it's more that we learn to be mindful, which is what you've just talked about, meditation. In a culture like ours, where it's all loud music, loud parties, loud everything, sometimes there's a disconnect between the silence that teaches us the resilience and the strength we need to harness the wild negative emotions. So really and truly, I think meditation is superb. Anyone who can wake up in the morning and create time to be alone, to just even look back. This is not meditation that is spiritual. Anyone can do this, which is why we call it mindfulness. In other words, you call your mind to order and you tell your mind you have a day ahead of you and any of these things can come. And as you do it during peacetime, when there is no negative emotion, you'll find that when negative emotions do come, you are able to get out of it. I find that sometimes, even with me, something happens that I don't expect. My first reaction is panic. And I ask myself, why are you panicking? And I say, fear. The minute I identify what it is that I'm dealing with, or it's anger, or I'm sad because things haven't gone the way, then you start talking to yourself. And that's reflectiveness. That's meditation. You start saying, well, this person that did this is not better than you, is not this, is not whatever you want to say. This person is coping with their own issues as well. So try and understand and try and bear with it. It's not easy, I have to tell you. That's why the word resilience means the capacity to hold on and move on in spite of. That's the beauty of that word resilience. The situation didn't get taken away with Annette. She was in it for a long time. So I think it's one thing. Mindfulness will help us. Meditation. How did I deal with the anger of yesterday, with the anxiety of yesterday? We just have to even teach children. And this is important that we're having this discussion because in African music and everything, we don't have soft things. So we need to teach children that it's not all about noise, banging doors. We have to teach children sometimes to create silence around themselves.
Yeah.
And this is what makes us grow, even as a people.
Yeah, I like, I know you need to have a self-awareness. So first of all, you
Yeah.
need to be able to identify what emotion am I feeling?
Exactly.
Because you said when you realize you're panicking, you know this is fear.
Yes.
And I have always talked in our self-love programs about journaling, because sometimes I find it does sound easy, like you said, telling someone what to do, but sometimes it's difficult getting yourself out of that place of negative thinking. So I found if I'm sort of like being able to write down what I'm thinking and try and reframe it positively, that helps. There was another point I wanted to bring up. So she had talked also about acceptance, but also having hope. And I found that could be a bit challenging, because accepting that, I mean, this crisis, so let's just do an everyday life. This is what's happening. I've lost a family member. I've lost a loved one. I'm going through heartbreak. This is where I'm at now. And acceptance is like grounding you, putting you in the present. But how do you hold on to hope? Because going back to her now, she was there for over a week. Yeah. So waking up, accepting I'm in this, but still having hope, like it sounds a bit almost like contradictory.
I think about this woman and I wish I could speak with her to say, I really do need to learn from her. And it's in hindsight, rather than, I don't think she knew she had this before that situation. But it's still the fact that hopelessness is destructive. And so if we must survive, and a lot of people who are resilient are survivors. They are really survivors. If we can put that word surviving next to resilience, we will realize that it is hard work, that it is going to take us getting out of a particular situation to survive. It's resilience equals surviving. And this lady is a survivor, not just that she's a survivor from the plane crash itself. She's a survivor from the emotions that would have put her down and made her hopeless. Yeah. And she could have just lain there and done nothing. And got so afraid she would take the wrong decisions, maybe run in the wrong direction, maybe not listen to the signs, the noises she's hearing to know what is around her. So really, Annette is
so calm thinking also puts you in a place of mental clarity, where you're able to make better decisions. What would you say the signs of an emotionally resilient person is?
That is a hard one. I don't think you can say anyone is emotionally resilient. It's like we're saying, you go to university, you get a degree, therefore we know you have a degree in this, you have a doctorate in this. Emotions aren't like that, because emotions come from the lowest to the highest of the pitches. So she's just gone through the highest that anyone can ever be in. And I dare say that she probably is someone who is naturally endowed or naturally taught. It doesn't come. And I think it's the message we have to send out there. Resilience does not just come. Resilience is learned. Resilience is about surviving. Resilience is about being able to, in spite of. Yeah. That's really what the message is about, resilience. Okay. And what we need to do is each person should say, start with the little things. When something disappoints me, start the practice. Mindfulness, meditation, being reflective.
Gratitude as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time she'd obviously come out through this, I thought it was interesting how she's used her trauma and turn that into purpose. So I thought how it's interesting that people can also use trauma and challenges and use that for better. But is this something or what would you say is the role of someone using their trauma to help other people?
You know, it's the best way for healing. One of the therapies that we have for grief, for trauma, for rape, is to transform it into something else. I had a young girl who was raped. One chance, they took the bus they were on and then took them to a bush And unfortunately, she was the only young girl there. The 3 men raped her, one after the other. She came out, she was broken. She was going to work that morning. She didn't know whether to continue, and so she went. Got back, got to the office, had a very lovely boss who said, don't worry, we're not going to talk about this, but I know somewhere you can go to. And so when she came, I looked at her. She's a cleaner. I mean, what can she do with it? And I said to her, what's your plan in your life? This isn't going to change your life. It's going to change your life for the better. Hope. And she says, well, I don't know what it's going to be. I said, don't you want to go to university? She said, yes, I want to go to university. And I said, well, this thing is going to lead you to university. And so we're going to look for who can help. And that was how we started looking, and went to the women's group, and they agreed to fund her. Yes, and her boss says throughout her education, she will keep her there working.
That's amazing.
So that's transforming evil. So it is good. Even those grieving, you find that some people are asked, why don't you do something in remembrance of this person? Why don't you set up this? The problem is not everyone can do these charities, but you can do it on a personal level. You can say to yourself, I will give up my time free to even go sweep the church or sweep the mosque or do anything that you want to do. But it's important to allow that thing not to take over your mind. It's something you just have to determine to do. Some people are not as capable of taking that decision. They might need medical support, and others can, and they should. But I think the lesson here is that parents should remember that life is difficult, which is what I like about The Road Less Traveled, a book written by Scott Peck. And the first sentence he says is, life is difficult. And we must teach children from a very early age to recognize that life is about surviving and about resilience.
And I think, so what I'm picking up as well is that healing is also helped when you take off the focus from yourself and put it on others as well. So ultimately, to summarize what we've discussed, I say emotional resilience looks like, or certain tools we can use: calm thinking, gratitude, so knowing that whatever crisis is occurring, you can always pick out something good, thinking positively, having hope, and taking the focus sometimes away from you and turning it into purpose. And so resilience isn't that we're not going to go through hard times, but it's about how we respond, how we heal, and how we keep moving forward one step at a time.
I agree with you.
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been so helpful. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening in. We hope this was valuable to you. Till next time. Bye.